Will there always be a Canada? There will always be a Canada. All right, elbows up. Elbows up.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
When he stopped up, he got him right in the elbow.
Elbows up.
What's up? Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. What a wild campaign this Canadian federal election has been for both sides. There are such polar differences between these election campaigns. Carnage Mark Carney, our fake, phony prime minister who was never elected. He's not an MP. He's just somebody that the Liberal Party selected as the best option for Canadians. Well, all of his campaign rallies are creepy as hell. Let's take a couple of looks, and then we're going to get into Pierre's most recent rally in Edmonton. It was a wild one, a lot of fun. Why are Mark Carney's rallies always so creepy? It's like somebody trying to have to question their teenage kid about masturbating or something. He's so guilty. You know he's done these things, but he won't admit it. He just keeps saying that it's Trump's fault or Poilievre's fault, while the Conservatives have not been in power in 10 years. The Liberals have been running the show. What a misplaced blame Carney's doing. Does he think he's fooling Canadians? I don't. Open yourself, Mark Carney, to being honest. Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
So you say you are not open to any conflict of interest?
Yes.
Trump spent most of his life in the private sector. There's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. It's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a prior of conflict and ill will. I have served in the private sector. I have stood up for Canada. I have left my roles in the private sector at a time of crisis for our country. I'm complying with all the rules. Your line of questioning is trying to invent new rules. I'm complying with the rules that Parliament has laid out and the responsibilities of the Ethics Commissioner. And I will continue to comply with those rules.
Wiggle and squirm as you might, it is really hard to put lipstick on a pig.
The rules say that those assets should be publicly disclosed within 120 days, which means you'll campaign in a coming federal election, most likely within the next 120 days, and are serving as Prime Minister now, with Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you sought to avoid.
What possible conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Point final.
Who the f*** is that guy?
Well, Connor, that's the seed they planted. This is Mark Carney, I guess, the Prime Minister of Canada. What a gong show it is. Anyhow, he complies, says he is, doesn't answer questions, doesn't. Anyways, this guy's a prick, and his campaign is creepy. Right here, he's going to crap all over Trump. Hey, baby, how you doing? So right after this last clip of our fake and phony Prime Minister, Mark Carney, slapping it all over Donald Trump, what Canada's problems are, not our federal government, Donald Trump. Weird. Anyhow, right after that, we're going to get into Stephen Harper introducing Pierre Poilievre's epic speech. It's this epic rally in Edmonton, man. It was huge. It was fun. Anyway, watch this last clip of Carney, and then we're going to get into Stephen Harper, former Prime Minister, and this wicked rally that Pierre hosted in Edmonton. Let's check out this dirty bird, Mark Carney.
Talking about what that means for us in Canada. And I think the first observation is what's going on is a direct consequence of President Trump's unjustified tariffs against Canada, tariffs that were first levied on Canada and Mexico, and then on the world. And those measures are going to hit a lot of people's savings, including their retirement savings. And as much as this is unfortunate, it was not unforeseen. This is what we have been concerned about. And indeed, this is what we've been trying to warn the President of the United States about.
Let's get into some of the fun stuff now, gang.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
This is Stephen Harper, former Prime Minister. I was never a fan of Stephen Harper. I remember in 2012, I had a chance to meet him at a hockey game, and I told my buddy, I'm going to tell him off. I'm going to let him have my mind. But when I got up there to get the photo taken by the PMO's office, I chickened out. I just shook his hand and was like, hey, nice to meet you, whatever. Funny how politics change, right? Anyways, crazy rally like that, this is best kicked off with a great introduction by, a big heavy hitter in Canadian federal politics. Stephen Harper was Prime Minister for a long time. After that, we'll get into Pierre's amazing speech coming up. It was pretty fun, gotta say. This rally was fun. Anyways, Stephen Harper is going to kick it off for us right here.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for making yourself a positive part of the most important decision that this country is going to make in decades. Canada right now needs change more desperately than it perhaps ever has. And it needs someone to lead that change, my friends. As someone who had the honor of serving as your Prime Minister, I know that being Prime Minister is a trust. It is a trust to take this incredible country that our ancestors bequeathed us and to leave it stronger, more united, more compassionate, and more confident than we found it. That's what we did, my friends, but that is not the story of the past decade, and that has got to change for Canada. Chers amis, je me trouve dans une position unique pendant cette campagne. Je suis la seule personne pour qui les deux candidats au poste de Premier ministre ont travaillé. Et mon choix sans équivoque est Pierre Poilievre. You know, friends, I am in a unique position in this federal election. I am the only person who can say that both of the men running to be Prime Minister once worked for me. And in that regard, my choice, without hesitation, without equivocation, without a shadow of a doubt, is Pierre Poilievre. I have known Pierre Poilievre for a quarter of a century. Since he was a very young man, the first time I met him, I could see that he was smart, articulate, possessing tremendous passion for our country and strong convictions about sound public policy. In 2004, during the time of my leadership, Pierre's parliamentary career began. He went progressively from a backbench MP to a parliamentary secretary, to a junior cabinet minister, to a senior cabinet minister, and of course, to party leader. And in all of those roles, he worked, he fought, and he learned. Because it is not just that Pierre excelled in all of those roles. In all of them, he grew. He got better and better. Friends, don't let anyone tell you that he was born to be Prime Minister, or that he can just somehow parachute into the job fully prepared. Political experience, elected, accountable political experience, and the capacity for growth with that political experience, that is what Pierre has demonstrated for 2 decades, and that is the single most important characteristic a Prime Minister needs. And by the way, I say that as the guy who actually did lead Canada through the global financial crisis. I hear there's someone else claiming it was him. It was, of course, our government, the late, great Jim Flaherty, and our Conservative team who were responsible for the day-to-day macroeconomic management during that challenging time. And friends, it's no secret that our country faces today another historically challenging time in the form of the Trump administration. There is no sugarcoating that. But the bulk of the problems that afflict our country, falling living standards, declining employment and housing opportunities, rising crime, the growing divisions between our regions and our people, these were not created by Donald Trump. They were created by the policies of 3 Liberal terms, policies that the present Prime Minister supported and wants a 4th Liberal term to continue. Pierre has consistently opposed those policies. Policies that have put costs up, accelerated crime, left our wealth in the ground, and made our economy vulnerable and under America's thumb. And Pierre has, just as importantly, long advocated the positive alternatives for change, to axe those taxes, build homes, bring back jobs, get our resources to the whole world. And stand up to Washington from a position of strength. Friends, I believe that the challenge this country faces today from the United States, as real and serious as it is, should not be another excuse for Liberal failure. Instead, it should be a historic opportunity. That's how we've got to see it. An opportunity to make Canada what it should be. Internally united, internationally connected, a truly independent economy with the highest living standards in the world. And with those benefits enjoyed not just by protected elites, but by all the people of this country in every region of this country. Do bring it home, friends, because that goal does not depend on Donald Trump, it depends on us. But we will only get there with leadership from a person who has an actual policy plan, from a person who has been right on all the big issues for a decade, and a person who has the energy and, yes, the youth to take us forward into a better, stronger, and more united future. That person has been my colleague, he is my friend, he is our leader, and he is the next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre, and Anna.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
Do you think we get wiser with age, gang? I'm not sure. Like, maybe I'm just not sure. I used to have a big problem with Stephen Harper. I kind of like him now. What a weird thing. Like, maybe levels of corruption that you've been affected by impede or affect your past judgments or a reflection upon those past judgments. Anyhow, the moment we've been waiting for, Pierre Poilievre, he is on fire in this one, guys. Big shout out to the peeps in Edmonton, Alberta, Calgary, the whole province, man. What's up? I lived in Alberta for a few years. I worked oil rigs, believe that or not. I was roughneck. And, yeah, Pierre Poilievre is back at home delivering a very rousing rally. Like, he does know how to get the people going. It would seem so anyways. Like, this is pretty fun to watch. Check him out.
Who's ready for some pipelines to make us independent from the Americans? And who's ready to put Canada first for a change? I think he's ready too. He wants to fight me for the microphone. Wow, he doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay up here. Cruz, c'est quoi ça? C'est quoi ça? He wants to steal my microphone from me. I think he wants, little Cruz wants to be Prime Minister. He'd be much better than what we have right now, I think. But speaking of Prime Ministers, let's show some gratitude for the greatest Prime Minister of the 21st century, the Right Honourable Stephen Harper. Prime Minister, it is an incredible honor to have you here on this stage. It was a little surreal, I have to confess. I remember when I met then economist Stephen Harper a quarter of a century ago, before he was even back in Parliament and running for leader. And then I remember serving with him for all those years as he took us through the tumultuous times of the war in Afghanistan, the great global recession. Always and everywhere, he was solid, competent, honest, decent, down to earth, a man who could, in the words of Kipling, walk with kings but never lose his common touch. He is the greatest mentor I could ever ask for. So who is ready for common sense Canada First government like we had under Stephen Harper? And to be back in my home province, here in Alberta. It's incredible. Let's bring it home, my friends. Look, this has got to be the biggest political gathering of the 21st century. Look, it is. I even have my mother and my brother here. Where are they? There they are. My mother's over there. My brother, Patrick. A lot of good memories from Edmonton. You know, A lot of them are not entirely good because I grew up a Flames fan in the 80s, so it could be very painful. We lost more than one game, both at the Saddle Dome and at McMahon Stadium. But we always used to love to come up here to West Edmonton Mall. We only had Chinook Center in Calgary. But my mom and dad would put us in the car. We'd do a little road trip up here and go on the roller coaster and that big ship. And we'd celebrate everything that was great about being alive in this country, that my folks work hard, even though it was hard times. They could afford to take us on little road trips. And they always taught us about the Canadian promise, the promise that hard work would pay off, that anyone who got out of bed in the morning and put in some effort could have a beautiful house on a safe street, protected by brave troops under our proud flag, that anyone from anywhere could do anything. And that's why I got into politics, to reinforce that promise. And in our time in government with Prime Minister Harper, we did. We left the country richer, stronger, and safer. Let's just take a moment and go back 10 years. 10 years ago, inflation was rock bottom, so were interest rates. Taxes were falling faster than at any time in our history. The budget was balanced, and crime had fallen by 25% because we locked up the worst criminals and left law-abiding hunters and sport shooters to enjoy their property. In fact, small towns were so safe, many people didn't even bother to lock their doors. Housing cost half of what it does today. I would know, I was the housing minister at the time. And you could rent the average apartment for under $1,000 a month. Take-home pay had gone up 10% above and beyond inflation and interest rates and taxes. The New York Times had just declared that Canada had the richest middle class in the world. Yes, when this Liberal government first took office, Canada was the richest and safest country anywhere around. We were a beautiful place to live with boundless opportunity. And yet, a decade later, what do we see when we look around us? Inflation, already having hit a 40-year high, is now once again on the rise. Housing costs have more than doubled after Liberals promised to lower them. Canadian homes now cost 50% more than they do in the United States, and you can actually buy a castle in Sweden for a lower price than a house in Kitchener today. Canada has the second slowest building permits in the OECD. Nothing can get built. We're very hard on entrepreneurs and law-abiding hunters under this Liberal government, but very easy on criminals who shoot up our streets and have doubled gun crime across this country. The economy is shrinking. It is smaller today in per capita terms than it was a decade ago. We have lost $500 billion of net investment flowing out of our country into the welcoming arms of the United States. My friends, this is the lost Liberal decade, and the choice in this election is whether we are going to allow a fourth term of rising costs and crime and a falling economy, or whether it is time for a new Conservative government that will put Canada first for a change.
Wiggle and squirm as you might, it is really hard to put lipstick on a pig.
Après la décennie perdue. Yes, we are going to bring it home. Après la décennie perdue. Après la décennie perdue des libéraux, avec les coûts et la criminalité qui augmentent et l'économie qui est en baisse et sous le contrôle des Américains, le choix est entre un quatrième mandat libéral ou bien un nouveau gouvernement qui va mettre le Canada d'abord pour faire changement. Now, the Liberals are trying to pull a fast one. They have a very simple strategy in this election. And here's what it is. Make you forget about the last 10 years. Everything they do will be about bringing collective amnesia of all the damage they've done. The first trick they've tried is replacing Justin Trudeau with his economic advisor and a hand-picked successor, Mark Carney. Now, despite the artificially inflated resume and the more carefully combed hair and the banker's suit, there is no change. It is the same Liberal ministers, same Liberal MPs, same Liberal strategists making the same Liberal promises they have been making for the last 10 years. We know the results. Mark Carney has spent the last 2 months taking for credit for things he did not do, but refusing to take responsibility for the things he actually did. He was Justin Trudeau's economic advisor for the last 5 years, during which time he supported not only keeping the carbon tax, but hiking the tax. He opposed the Northern Gateway Pipeline in testimony before a parliamentary committee. He opposed that pipeline while profiting off of foreign pipelines himself. You know, it is no wonder that Donald Trump says he wants Mark Carney and the Liberals to stay in power, because he knows that as long as the Liberals are there, Canada's economy will be weak and reliant on the Americans. But guess what? Donald Trump doesn't get to choose our next Prime Minister. Canadians do, and they're going to vote for a change. It's not just Donald Trump that says it would be easier to deal with the Liberals. Today, again, the Chinese government was out campaigning for the Liberals, supporting Mark Carney, just like they did during the leadership race of that party. And who would wonder why? Mr. Carney, while he was economic advisor to Justin Trudeau, actually went to China to get his company a $250 million loan. A loan that his company still owes, and a company in which he continues to be invested. We cannot trust Mark Carney to put our country first. He never has, he never will. We need an end to the long, Liberal lost decade. It is time for a change and a new day for Canada. We're going to take back control of our economic lives. You know, we've all been chanting, "Bring it home" today. That term, that expression has very real meaning. One, we're going to bring home our production and paychecks from abroad. And two, you are going to bring home more of your hard-earned paycheck. And isn't it great to have Brett Kissel here, the great country music star who sang "Our Home"? Way to go, Brett. Thank you very much, my friend. You got a message for people?
Edmonton and Canada, it's very important to understand the human being that Pierre is. A guy who's become my friend, and somebody who truly believes in the future of Canada and understands that the past 10 years we've had have not been great. But Pierre is here with all of his colleagues and with all of his heart to make a significant change for a brighter future, something that each and every one of us truly want, not just for us, but for our kids and our grandkids, and Pierre is the guy to do it. And our Bring It Home plan starts with a big
patriotic tax cut on work, investment, energy, and home building. We will lead the charge to reward hard work by cutting income tax by 15% for the average worker and senior. This tax cut will enable our workers to gain more by putting in an extra hour, earning a bonus, or getting a promotion. It will allow our families to spend more money at our local businesses, giving us a boost at a time when our economy is weak and under attack. And it will ensure that dollars are left in the hands of the person who earned them instead of in the hands of the politician who taxed them. Bringing it home means favoring the things that are made here at home. And that's why we've announced we will axe the sales tax on all Canadian-made cars. Let's create some jobs for our auto workers in Ontario, too. And then there's the famous carbon tax. Now, remember, up until only a few months ago, the Liberals were telling us that the entire planet was going to be lit on fire if we didn't pay a 61 cent a litre carbon tax at the pumps. They passed that into law, a law that is still in place today. But in order to make you forget about their carbon tax, 28 days before the election, they decided to hide it from the gas pumps. Don't worry. If, God forbid, they are reelected, the tax will be back by May 1st. Remember, the day they took it off at the pump was April 1st, April Fool's Day. But Canadians are not fools. They know that Mark Carney has openly said he wants a higher tax and that he wants it to apply on Canadian industry. That's another thing he and Trump have in common. They both want to tax our industry, Trump with tariffs and Carney with carbon taxes. Well, my friends, with me, there is no doubt. There has been no equivocation my entire career in public service. I will axe the tax for everyone, for everything, for real, for good, forever.
WTF. Here, here.
Gang, so am I convinced about Pierre Poilievre? For this election, I know how I'll be voting. Am I convinced about politicians? No. I don't trust any of these lot. Like, I trust Pierre Poilievre the most, or I distrust Poilievre the least amount out of the people that are running in this campaign. Anyways, he wraps it up pretty tight here. Let's wrap it up. Let's take a peek. Pierre Poilievre, let's go.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
And then there's the guns. Thanks for hanging in there with me, everybody. Thanks for hanging in. Thank you very much, especially you folks up there. You have very powerful eardrums. You were able to hear me the whole time. Then there's the guns, illegal guns that are pouring in from the United States through the Liberal government's weak management of our border. Only 1% of shipping containers are actually inspected. And that's how the guns are coming in. We're going to scan the containers, hire 2,000 CBSA frontline officers, bring in watchtowers that can scan the horizon of our frontiers to keep crime, drugs, stolen cars, and other illegal substances out of our country. And I'll tell you how we're going to pay for it. We're going to cancel the ridiculous multi-billion-dollar gun grab that targets licensed, law-abiding Canadians. The Liberals will ban every single hunting rifle in this country. Spread the message far and wide. What are you guys cheering for over there? That's a bad thing. Oh, your speaker came on. Oh, wow, okay. Now I know if there's a random cheer what it's all about. I was just complaining about the Liberals. You guys start cheering. I was like, what the heck? All right, what I was saying is that the Liberals want to ban your hunting rifle. Do you think it's a good idea? Grandpa Joe's hunting rifle is not the problem. I want to protect Canadians from criminals. Liberals want to protect turkeys from hunters. Canadians will have to decide at election time, because the choice will be between a fourth term of rising costs and crime and a falling economy under America's thumb, or a new Conservative government that will axe taxes, build homes, unleash our resources, and bring home our jobs so we can stand up to the Americans with strength for a change. And strength. Strength means that we must rebuild Canada's military, the Canadian forces. Do we have any veterans here in the House today? Give it up for our veterans. Thank you. Thank you for your service. What an incredible honor. There he is. Look at this fellow here. He has D-Day on. Good to see you, sir. Where did you serve?
In the Canadian Navy in the Second World War and D-Day.
A round of applause. Bless you, my friend.
PBS, the Pavement Broadcast System, proudly presents a new do-it-yourself at-home home improvement show. My name is Anton, and this is my house / bathroom / kitchen / backyard / library. Oh, I forgot we're on TV. Let me fix my makeup.
Will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right, elbows up.
Elbows up.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
When he stopped up, he got him right in the elbow.
In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups: the globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
Okay, good day. Welcome to the Great White North, aka Canadian Corner.
How's it going, eh?
Bob McKenzie's my brother Doug.